All right, so our third AP Reach team commitment that we want to talk about is flexibility. And flexibility is another one of those crucial commitments that we have to have as missionaries. As missionaries, our lives can be pretty unpredictable from week to week, right? We go through different seasons where our schedule is constantly changing. People are coming to the field and leaving the field constantly. We're having to adapt not only to the new culture that we're in, but just the things that constantly change, right? And so being flexible is so important. What's your experience been, and how do you keep yourself flexible?
Well, I think, again, being able to adapt to the changes, you're coming again into a new environment. It's just really important not to be beholden to your plans, not to be, committed and married to what you're doing, and being able to look at a situation as it's happening and decide, okay, my plan was this, and now something else has gone out of my control. Right. What is my next step? What am I going to do next? Instead of sitting there and being frozen, like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? Because I consider myself a very free person, but being here in a different culture, there's a lot more room to make a mistake.
Right.
And I'm constantly worried about, how I'm doing, what I do might affect the church that I'm serving or the team that I'm on. So I'm constantly kind of worried about those things. And I've had to learn to kind of step back from that perfectionist side of A, B, and C, and then go straight into like, okay, if this happens, what else can I do in this situation? How can I respond in a Christ-like manner to this situation and go from there?
Yeah, that's so good. And one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten since being a missionary, from a seasoned missionary, was that one of the biggest frustrations for people that come to the field is mismanaged expectations. And so this really starts with before you get to the field too, of having this heart posture of surrendering, saying, God, I know you've called me to this field. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like for me to serve yet. I don't know. There's so many unknown things. God, help me to be flexible. Help me to be, again, teachable, and that really starts with even, like I said, before coming to the field. And, that goes into not just these seasons and these things you're adapting to, but also the relationships with other team members, right? Like, so often we have expectations that we set on people, and when they don't meet those expectations, we're prepared to treat them differently or to not serve at our, most devotedness. And so, if we take our expectations off the situations, off of other people, it makes us so much more flexible, right?
Mm-hmm. And I agree, putting your own expectations on other people is really important not to do, because it's going to put a lot more pressure on that team. And they're going to, depending on your position and what you're doing, you can stress out your other team members, and they're going to be inflexible. They're going to start to be rigid. And then the whole thing just snowballs out of control. So being able to understand, hey, like if something can go wrong, it probably will. It probably will go wrong. But I think just being able to stop, look at the situation, and also realize that you have a whole team with you. Talk to them, get advice from them, talk to the leaders that are there, and don't be, again, beholden to something that you have in your mind.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I'm reminded again of another piece of advice a missionary gave me, and that it's that while the message of the gospel, right, is sacred, and that's what we're here to do, is to spread the message of the gospel, but our methods aren't. And coming to a new culture, coming to a field where you've never served in ministry before, we have to be flexible to let go of some of those methods and again, to be teachable, right, to adapt to methods that have been proven to work.
I really like how you said our methods are not sacred. And I think that's one of the things that I learned working directly with the Japanese church that I work with is that the methods that I thought were biblical, they're just the way that my church used to do them. They're just what I was used to. It reminds me of a situation with my pastor where it seems pretty small, and we were talking about the flowers outside. There was this one church member who was really excited about trimming the bushes and making them look nice. But she did a little bit too much. And pastor was like, worried about, she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to say something to her. I don't want to hurt her feelings and things like that. And I'm just thinking like, but you're worried about it. Now you're going to have like this kind of, bad feelings towards this person. Just be honest. It's biblical. You should be truthful. Let her know. You can do it kindly. But she was so worried about it. And then I was in my mind like, my experience told me like, well, I could just say something nice, and don't have to be rude. And she said there and she said, no, I'm going to let her continue to serve the church in the way that she wants to serve the church because she feels she's being helpful. And her feelings are more important than those flowers. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
That was so biblical. I was like, that's Jesus right there. That's so Jesus. And I think it was really good. It just helped me to remember how to change my perspective of the situation. And again, to not so focus on what I'm thinking should happen or what the way that I think it should go.
Yeah, and that's so important. That's what flexibility is, right? Like, I don't know about you, but the ministry that I served in before coming here, there was just some differences, right? Like my ministry before was a lot more fast paced. We had a lot of stuff going on. So when I got here and I'm now in a mode of learning and seeing how things are done, if I wouldn't have been flexible to adjust to the difference in pace, I would have had a really hard time, right? Like being flexible is allowing yourself to adapt to the new environment. And here on the field, a lot of things are going to change. There's not a lot of things that are going to be constant. And that's why it's important that our values are what is constant, right? And it's important for us to constantly remind ourselves why we are here, and less on the things that we think we're supposed to be doing, but more on God, why is it that you have me here in this season? What is it that you want me to learn right now in this season? And I think that requires you to slow down and really to be teachable and flexible and letting some things go.
Yeah. And I like how you say about what you said about values, about how we need to be grounded in our values and we need to be understanding why we're here. So I think it goes back to the first commitment where we really want those biblical disciplines. So being grounded in your word, being grounded in the values. What does Jesus want us to do? How are we serving? How are we being like Christ here? And I think that will really help us to be more flexible.
Yeah. And again, I think this is something that starts before you get to the field. You don't want to start trying to be flexible as soon as you land, right? This is a muscle that you want to exercise before coming here. So maybe in your personal prayer today, ask God, what are some areas that I need to be more flexible in? How can I be someone who, when I come to the field, I'm ready for whatever you have for me, God?